All right. Hey, everybody, welcome. It is 2 o'clock Central Time, September 27th, 2023. Welcome to our September Masterclass. Holy cow, there's already 100 people in here. Hey, my name is Jeremiah Taylor. I'm the Chief Real Estate Officer here at Ojo. Thank you so much for joining us for our September Masterclass. We have got an amazing speaker and a killer opportunity for you to grow your business today. For the almost 200 of you now that have joined, again, my name is Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Ojo. Thanks for joining us. As y'all are joining, jump in, open the chat window, make sure that you can send us a message and let us know where you're joining from today. I'm in Austin, Texas. RJ, you are like the man with the finger on the trigger in San Diego. I love that. Let's see, we got Heller is sitting next to me here in Austin. In fact, I don't know if you can see, but there's Chris. He's right there. You got two floating green Ojo heads today here in the office. Cool. Wow, almost 200 people. For those of you that just joined, my name is Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Ojo. Thank you so much for joining. We're very excited to share this September masterclass with you. We're going to give people maybe another 30 seconds. Rob Luck, I love that you said howdy from Springfield, Missouri. Krista Lara from my hometown, El Paso, Texas. Let's see, who else is on here? I see Fort Collins, San Antonio, DFW, Tavares, Florida, Southern Cali. Awesome. All right, I think we're at a good spot here. Mr. Sean Harden up in Round Rock. You got 20 minutes from Chris and I. Cool. Hey, everybody, welcome. My name is Jeremiah Taylor. I'm part of the team here at Ojo. We've got a great masterclass for you today with Mr. Chris Suarez. Here's what to expect. We're going to get started right now. This is being recorded, meaning if you miss something, if you have to tune out for a minute, know that we're going to send you the recording. And more importantly, we know you're going to want to share this content with your friends, your teams, other people in the industry, because it's going to be good. So we'll send out the recording. Be prepared to take notes today because the nuggets are going to come flying fast. So I'm going to hand it over to my friend Chris Heller to introduce our speaker, Chris Suarez. And then Chris is going to talk. We'll do some Q&A in about 5 minutes till I've got a couple of new updates on Ojo that I want to share with you. And hey, you never know, we might just give away some Ojo merch here at the end. So stay tuned. Hang with us till the end. Mr. Heller, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you. It's all yours.
All right. Jeremiah fumbling the mute button. Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time out of your day to be here. We know why you're here. You're here to get a lot of value, and I'm very, very confident that you're going to walk out of here with a lot of that. Chris Suarez is going to share with you all, but before I turn it over to him, just a little background. I've known Chris for a long time. We were at the same company together. Always had a lot of respect for him. He has a great intellect. He is an implementer and an executor. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. He has a very successful coaching company called Experiential. And most recently, he's the co-founder of Place. And for those of you who don't know what Place is, it's a company, technology platform that partners with the top 20% of the teams in the country, of which a lot of those teams are on their platform. And it helps power those teams to greater profitability, greater growth. They're doing a lot of cool things in that company, which I'm a big fan of. So I could go talk a lot longer about Chris, but that would embarrass him and take time away from you. So instead, I'm going to turn it over to you, Chris, to get going.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate sparing the embarrassment because I do that enough myself. So I'm just thrilled to be here with everybody. Chris and I, as you mentioned, have known each other for, gosh, it was almost probably 2 decades, but we'll just say 1.5 for now. And actually, that's somewhat of what we're going to talk about today. Many of us have been in our businesses for different lengths of time. And what I wanted to share today is why we're still here. And how do we continue, and what really builds this legacy business that most of us would wish to build and to have. But maybe we can start by doing a little bit of participation. So I'm going to share my screen, Just give me a thumbs up if you could see it. Not my baby, although it's almost cute enough to take. But in the chat, let me make sure I got the chat open. There we go. In the chat, I'd love for anyone to just say to acknowledge or just say me, because I can't see show of hands. But if you've been in the industry for 5 years or less, go ahead and chat. Yep, that's me. 5 years or less, that's me. Who here has been in the business for 5 years or less? Awesome, a good amount, right? We'll call you our industry babies. Our industry babies. Congratulations on being in the industry for 1,825 days. You are well on your way to growing up in the industry. How about 5 to 10 years? Been in the industry 5 to 10 years? Go ahead and chat. Douglas, Federico, Julie, 5 to 10 years. Rob, awesome. Congratulations. That is a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of emails sent. It's a lot of prospective clients. You are just getting your feet under you. Congrats on your 3,650 days in the industry. How about 10 to 20 years? Who here is 10 to 20? 18, Corinne, awesome. Another 18, 20, Tanya, Sean, 17. Like it feels like a lifetime, doesn't it? 10 to 20 years. You've seen 3 or 4 market cycles. You have had countless no's. You've had plenty of hangups. Congrats on your 7,300 days in the industry. We're going to keep going because I love to see this. How about 20 to 30 years? 23 years, Catherine, 23, 21, Patricia, that's awesome. 22, Veronica, 20 to 30 years, 25. That is worth some recognition, right? 20 to 30 years doing anything. Congrats on your 10,950 days. Howard, we're going to get to you, don't worry. And how about 30 years or more? Howard's already in. Debbie, 30 years or more. Like, look at that. You guys are a force of nature, right? And probably feel like you just got hit by one. So just congrats, like on over 12,000 days in the industry. But I'm gonna let everybody in on this little secret. Here's the secret. Today is day one for everybody, right? As I begin my 9,205th day in the industry this week, I show up today, I talk with you today, collectively, asking every single person to believe that today is day one. And I'm gonna share why we need to show up as if it's day one, whether it's day 3,000, 5,000, 7,000, 12,000, right? 9,205, like today is day one. Let's put some things in perspective. You and I have worked and built and sweat and cried and laughed and cried and sweat some more building these businesses. Some of us, right? For myself, my 25th year. And that year is an interesting number because many of us, as evidenced by that chat, many of us have been building our businesses longer than the 4 iconic businesses on the screen. Zuckerberg started Facebook and now Meta 18 years ago. Jack Dorsey started Twitter and then sold it, right? Like now is X 16 years ago, 17 years ago. Larry and Sergey started Google 24 years ago. Jeff Bezos started Amazon 25 years ago. All of them have been around less time than many of us. Like they were building their business less time than some of us have been building our real estate businesses. So what's the key difference? Like as I think about that and I think about what they've built in 24, 25 years or 18 years or 16 years, and then think about, okay, like where am I 25 years later? What is the difference? I would propose to all of you that it is centered on their day one mindset, that every one of the founders and business owners show up as if every single day is day one. 25 years later in the industry, it's not lost on me that for 25 years in a row, Jeff Bezos wrote a letter to his board, to his employees, to his investors. And you can go online, you can Google them, you can read every single one of them. I've read them all. Every single year, he wrote a letter. Jeff wrote his first letter to shareholders the year that I graduated high school, right? In 1997, he wrote his first letter to his shareholders. He wrote a letter every single year thereafter for 25 years. And every single year, he would remind his team, he would remind his employees, he would remind his investors, he would remind his customers that it was day one. From the day in 97 that he launched Amazon.com to the day in 99 that they hit a $30 billion market cap, to the day in 2009 that they hit a $50 billion market cap, to the day in I think it was July 2021 that they hit $1 trillion market cap, to the day in November of last year that they lost $1 trillion in value. Regardless, Jeff Bezos has always believed, always acted as if, always showed up as if, and always made decisions as if it was day one at Amazon. And because of that, their business looks a little different than many of our businesses. Jeff Bezos says that day one, right? If I'm gonna try to encapsulate what is day one, like Chris, what is day one? Like Jeff Bezos says that day one is code for inventing like a startup, showing up like a startup with little regard for legacy, which means regardless of how big they were, regardless of how profitable they were, regardless of how much product they had sold, regardless how further ahead they were than their competition, regardless of how inventive or creative they had been up until that moment, up until that day, Jeff always believed that it was day one for their organization. And every single year he said, it's day one. It's day one at Amazon. Thanks for your support this year. It's day one at Amazon. See, our industry and we as business owners must do the same. We must grab that day one energy that other founders have brought to their businesses and their industry and show up as day one agents, right? As day one realtors, as day one business owners. Now, some of us have come off of our greatest years, right? In the history of our industry. Now, we may have already forgotten that, but some of us are coming off of some of our biggest years. We had our best years. I hope we had our most profitable years. But because of the last few months, the last couple quarters, the last year, many of us have already forgotten those incredible years. Some of us feel like we have outgrown activities that we used to do, or we built past certain schedules, or we deserve not to do certain activities anymore. But how do we in this room continue growing while the industry recedes, right? As Ojo stepped up into the industry, they said, hey, how do we help our partners continue to build and grow their business while much of the industry recedes? And I would say it's because they and all of us show up or need to show up and act like it's day one. So for years, at their company meetings, almost every single meeting, just like he did in his letters, Jeff would start his meetings and say, hey, it's day one at Amazon, right? And my brother, for about 15 years, worked directly for Jeff Bezos. So I know this to be a fact. He would start every meeting and he would say, hey, it's day one. And then they dive into their meeting until one day at one of those meetings, someone brave raised their hand and said, hey, Jeff, I know you always say it's day one, but what does day two look like? Like if it's always been day one, what does day two look like? And this is what he said. And it showed up as in one of his in the letter that he wrote to his investors that year. He said, hey, you in the back, what does day two look like? This is what it looks like. He said, day two is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. And that is why it is always day one. So who wants to sign up for day two? No one. And yet, if we're not careful, if we don't show up like it's day one, then there's only one other option. It's day two. And if we're not careful, our entire industry will start looking like day two. We here need to be warned, right? We need to remember that what happened yesterday is irrelevant. What we sold yesterday is irrelevant. What we earned yesterday is irrelevant. What award we won yesterday is irrelevant. There's a lot of companies that we can look to, one of on our screen, that forgot that slipped into day two, that didn't show up like day one. So then the question is, what does day one look like? So we're going to go through 5 steps to day one. 5 steps that we can implement and we can execute and we can show up every single day saying, hey, it is day one if. What's the first one? What are the 5 steps to day one? The first one's skill. I want us to think about our first day in the industry. What's wild is 25 years later, I still feel like I'm just starting, right? I still feel like I'm that 19-year-old kid that showed up to the brokerage, got his license, and was there to work, right? Think about that first day. What did you do to get good? You learned scripts. You practiced conversations. You studied the market. You asked questions. You learned from people ahead of you. It's time to get better. Right now, it's day one. It's time to get better. The market's demanding it. The industry is demanding it. Your customers are demanding it. Your bank accounts are demanding it. Day one says, I am going to skill up. So I'm going to look at my calendar. I'm going to look at my day. I'm going to look at my week and say, hey, am I skilling up this week? Am I getting better this week? Because if it was truly day one, I would show up like I needed to learn something. In one of his letters, Jeff said this. He said, there's no rest for the weary. Why? And I love this. Customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied. They are divinely discontent. Now, some of us are thinking, yeah, they are. Like, tell me about it. Like, let me introduce you to some of my buyers or some of my sellers. They are wonderfully dissatisfied. Like, that's what customers are. Jeff said they are divinely discontent. Even when they don't yet know it, customers want something better. But think about that. If we showed up every single day and said, hey, that's my expectation. I know that buyers and sellers are going to want something better. That means we need to be designing something better. That means we need to be getting better. So step number 1 is skill. Are we skilling up? Step number 2, activity. It's time to work hard. It's time to do the work. I know we all thought we arrived, but that we were above it. But now is the time. Now is the time to be that visionary. Now is the time to also be the executioner of that vision. It's time to suit up. We have to do activity. In 1998, Jeff wrote to his board and his investors in his yearly letter and said, it's not easy to work here. You can work long, hard, or smart. But in Amazon, you can't choose 2 out of 3. Why? Because we're working to build something important. And such things aren't meant to be easy. Think about that. That's where we're at in the market right now, right? That was Amazon's philosophy always. Why? Because it was always day one. Like, people that worked there, they were willing to work long. They were willing to work hard. They were willing to work smart. And I love that. It's not a 2 out of 3 situation. He said, it's going to be all 3. This might have us going back to doing activities that got us here, right? It's speed to lead all over again. We've gotten a little slow, perhaps. It's picking up the phone. It's putting on our shoes and going out and getting in front of buyers and sellers. It's recommitting to the lead generation activities that got you here in the first place. It's actually having non-negotiable activities. My rule of thumb in 2023 with our agents has been this: double the activity will bring half the results. Now, it doesn't sound good. It's not super popular. But if it took me 10 conversations to get 2 appointments in the last few years, it's going to take 20 conversations to get 1 appointment this year. Double activity, half the results on a good day. On a good day. Why? Buyer motivation's down, seller motivation is down, right? Consumer behavior is down. Like, it's just the reality. It doesn't mean the business isn't there. It just means that we need to do more activity. We have to show up like it's day one, not like it's day 9,205. If emotion has dropped, so will their activity. So when the consumer confidence index gets cut in half, right, which it did, thus activity will as well. So for some of us, we look at interest rates and we look at home sales and we look at all this data, and that's awesome. But I'll tell you, the first one I look at is consumer confidence, because consumer confidence tells me how much activity do I need to pull, how much work do I need to do, because the consumer confidence is going to lead to action or activity. Now I take those activities and I move them to my calendar, right? So I'm skilling up, I'm doing more activity. My third thing is accountability. And I have a different perspective on this than perhaps some. I just believe that all of us will show up more for others than we will show up for ourselves. And that isn't a statement about commitment to self-love or self-worth, or, you know, will I do what serves me? Like, it's just reality. As human beings, we will do things for others that we won't do for ourselves. Think about it. So be accountable to someone. To be honest, it was a big reason for my partnership when I committed to build something different than I was building. When we launched Place, it was because I feel more energy and more commitment every single time a top team partners with us and powers their business on our platform. Why? It's accountability. I have to show up for them. One of my favorite things that I learned from a mentor, and actually a good friend of mine, Brendan Burchard, right? He wrote in his book, High Performance Habits, that one of the key characteristics of high performers, right? There are 6 key characteristics of high performers. And he looked at all industries. He looked at sports, he looked at business, right? He looked at industry and retail, but he said, one of the key characteristics was necessity. Necessity. See, some of us are coming off of years where we don't have necessity anymore. Maybe we've been doing this for 15, 20 years and we've made some smart decisions. So we don't have the necessity to go out and sell hundreds of homes anymore, or 50 homes, or even 20 homes. But see, necessity and finding necessity will cause us to show up. In fact, on his computer, he has a little sticky note, and I challenge everybody to use this tactic. I use it on mine. And I have a sticky note as well, and it says, who needs my A game today? Because someone does. Someone needs your A game today. And you will show up for the person that needs your A game today. Every morning, I think about who needs my A game today. Maybe this morning it's me. Like, maybe it's me. And maybe tomorrow it's Chris. Maybe the next day it's Jeremiah. Maybe it's my kids that need my A game today. It doesn't matter who it is, but we need to find someone who needs your A game, because we will show up for them. See, I wake up every day ridiculously committed to solving big problems with simple solutions for those that I'm accountable to solve problems for, because I promised I would do that. And promises give birth to accountability. And that allows me to wake up every day as day one. So the third thing we need to be able to live in a day one mindset is just accountability. Who are we accountable to? Who needs our A game today? Go find someone. For our solo practitioners, there's also someone that needs your A game today. Maybe it's a buyer, maybe it's a seller, right? They need your A game today. They need you to show up and help them today. I love this. It's called accountability, and it'll keep us in that day one mindset. Fourth, it's commitment. To me, this is just doing something that needs to be done, even when you may not feel like doing it. Because I promise you, there are days you are not going to feel like doing it, especially in 2023, especially in 2024. And so, as I thought about commitment, I came up with these 6 commitments that I've asked everybody in my world to make. I'm going to share those 6 commitments with you, right? Which is keeping us in that day one mindset. The first is committing to do the job that needs to be done. Now, that's different than the job that I want to do sometimes. It's different than the job that I did yesterday sometimes. It's different than the job that I learned how to do a year or 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 years ago. It's committing to do the job that needs to be done. Commitment number 1. Commitment number 2. I'm going to commit to keep the schedule that needs to be kept based on the job that needs to be done. Like, this is pretty key. For me, I'll share with you. If you call me up and said, hey, what are you doing Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday? It looks the same every Monday. It looks the same every Tuesday. It looks the same every Wednesday and Thursday and Friday because, see, I committed at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the quarter to keep the schedule that needs to be capped in order to hit those goals for that quarter. So does your calendar look that way? If you opened up your Google Calendar, would it tell you that you're committed to keep the schedule that needs to be capped based on the goals that you promised yourself that you would hit? Not someone else. You didn't promise anyone else those goals. You promised yourself those goals. So that's commitment number 2. Commitment number 2 centers around your schedule. Commitment number 3, commit to train and coach and collaborate. We need that more than ever in this industry. Like, do not become an island, right? This is amazing. As we look at the community that you've built here, you showed up here today to learn, to collaborate, to leave with something, hopefully, that you didn't come with. That is a commitment. So where does that fit in your weekly rhythm, in your monthly rhythm? This year, we need to commit to cut what needs to be cut. A lot of us keep the stuff that doesn't matter, and we cut the stuff that doesn't. And this to me does not mean cut expenses in your business necessarily, because some expenses are good. Like, in fact, there's a competitive advantage in not cutting expenses to grow your market share. Like, you're all part of a platform that is actually moving your business forward. But we have all these little things that is death by a million paper cuts. And so for me, I had to look through and say, okay, well, what don't I need right now? What luxury did I enjoy while things looked as good as they were looking? Every business right now is going through that. Every business, small business, mid-sized business, right? Large business, just commit to cut what needs to be cut. Commit to accepting failure and disappointment. Some of us don't like that. Some people think, well, that seems negative, but the reality is life will bring us failure and life will bring us disappointment, right? We will fail, we will disappoint ourselves. Other people will fail around us and they will disappoint us. Commit to accepting that. That's okay. It's not gonna get you off track. Like, if we commit to accepting it, we'll be able to move through it. There are some of our friends that did not commit to accepting failure and disappointment. And when they see their business sort of pull back by 10% or 15% or 20%, or heck, the market's back by 30%. So if they stayed average and they pulled back by 30%, that was too much. And their ego would not allow them to accept that, learn from it, or adjust. So be careful. And your last commitment, commit to not falling out of love with what you do. Now, this is a challenge for so many. I've probably heard more than I've ever heard this year. Gosh, Chris, I just don't know if I love this anymore. Have you said it? Have you texted it to your partner or your spouse or your friend? Like, I don't know if I need this. Like, I don't know if I love this anymore. It is always easy to fall into this trap when things aren't as easy as they were recently. I'll tell you, some years back, I decided to run a marathon. Years back, I mean, like 11 years ago. And it was the most painful experience. It was here in Portland, and it was all hills. And I got to about mile 12 or 13, and I said to myself, why did I do this? And then I said to myself, I hate this. This hurts. I don't like this anymore. And I said that to myself for the next probably 11 miles. And I fell out of love with running. And so I took about 7 or 8 years off, and I didn't run. I didn't run for fun. I didn't run competitively until I woke up one day and realized, like, how did I fall out of love with what I used to love? And I did because it got hard. I did because it was painful. And I realized that, one, I had to get back into it, but two, how easy that is to happen to us right now in our business because things are hard, or business is down, or someone just left us, or someone tapped out, or I didn't hit my goal. Just commit right now to yourself to not fall out of love with what you do. We all love what we do. That's why we're here. That's why we do it. We have an incredible job, right? Like, real estate is amazing. So commit to not falling out of love with it during a difficult cycle. Which leads us to the last step. The last step. to have a day one mindset. And it's fighting against equilibrium, which put simply means just status quo. Remember, Jeff Bezos said that day two was, well, he said stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. Fight against equilibrium. Fight against that feeling like that we just say, well, I'm just going to hold on. I'm just going to try to make it. Well, I'm getting through it. I'm still here. None of that says it's day one. All of that says it's day two. We have to fight that feeling. And that's why we go out and we learn about the industry and we say, well, I'm not doing that. I'm going to learn about that. I'm going to bring that into my business. This is a strategy that I've not executed before. Like if you're not looking at new strategies or redesigning the strategies that you're executing, well, then we're just skating by. We're in equilibrium. None of those four iconic companies that we shared earlier ever got to equilibrium. And interestingly enough, when it started to, what happened? Someone else came in, bought it, changed it, new leadership came in. Why? To get rid of that equilibrium. I'll sort of wrap up this conversation of day one, bringing us into a board meeting again at Amazon. And you know, in one of his meetings, Jeff said, you know, everybody always asks me, what's going to change, right? What's like, let's look at the industry. What's going to change in the next 5 years, Jeff? Like, what's going to change, Jeremiah? Like, what's going to change, Chris, in the next 5 or 10 years in our industry? Like, tell me what you think. Like, you've been around. Tell me what you think. And Jeff said, you know, that's a really interesting question. It's a really common question. But he said, I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And see, I can build a business strategy around what's not going to change. I can't build business strategy around what is going to change. And so Jeff said, in my business, here's what's not going to change. People are always going to want things faster. No one's ever going to say, hey, Jeff, that package got here a little bit too quick. Can you 2 days, 1 day, send it next week, get it to me in 10 days, send that in 12. Like no one's ever going to say that. So we built a business model around speed. He said, here's the second thing that's never going to change, price. No one's ever going to say, hey, could you charge me more? Like these deals are too good. Like I feel like I'm not giving you enough of my money. So raise the prices. No one's ever going to say that. So we built a business model around that. And the third thing is choice. No one's ever going to say, hey, gosh, I don't, just send me your whatever pair of socks you want. Like I want socks, just send me socks. Like, no, we want choice. Human beings want choice. He built a business model around speed, price, and choice. Oh, and by the way, he turned it into $1 trillion business. When you have something that you know is true, even over the long term, you can afford to put a lot of energy and a lot of money into it. We know our customers want convenience. Why? Because look at the NAR report, like every single year, everything, like convenient to shopping, convenient to schools, convenient to jobs. Like they want convenience, right? My agent made it easier. Build a business model around that. We know our customers want to make good financial decisions with their real estate. Are you building a business model around that? We know there's a lot of things in our business we know. So build a business model around what's not going to change in 10 years. We'll navigate through what is changing. You're part of a platform that said, hey, how buyers look, how buyers shop is changing. Great. People are taking that on. They're building around that. But as people in the industry here to serve buyers and sellers, focus on what's not going to change. People are always going to want their home sold quickly, right? They're always going to want a home they can afford, that you help them find. And so as we think about it, remember, whether we've been in the business for 40 years, 20 years, 10 years, or maybe this is literally day one and you're like, hey, I got invited to this webinar. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to go because it's day one. Like we have to show up and go out this year convinced that today and every day is day one. So that is what I wanted to share with everybody this morning. As we think about how we maintain that that day one mindset, right? It's skill, focusing on skill, focusing on our activity, focusing on our accountability, focusing on our commitments, and then focusing on fighting against equilibrium, not allowing ourselves to get comfortable or stay status quo in our business. Cool?
Very cool. This time it was Heller that didn't unmute.
Well, you didn't
for the record. I also gave him no heads up, but Chris, that was amazing. I mean, look, you started with 218 people listening and there are 217 people listening. So that was highly engaging. I've got a half a page of notes here. And look, for y'all that are on the webinar, you've got a great opportunity right now to like really almost one-on-one ask questions to Chris, like kind of unpack more of this thinking. And I think the first time that, Chris and I talked about this concept at day one, I'll be honest, it didn't like fully click for me. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like treat like beginner's mind. I've heard that kind of stuff before. This is new. But when I heard you today, I think the thing that really landed for me, and I want to hear from the 200 of you that are listening, what landed for you. And I want this is your opportunity to ask questions. So pop up in the Q&A, start writing them, write them in the chat. The thing that landed for me is like, right now, the market's tough. The industry's tough. And it is very easy to fall out of love with it. It is very easy to fall in this trap of like, maybe there's a shinier object. I remember Gary Keller used to tell this joke where it was like, when somebody goes from entrepreneurial to purposeful, they run into the ceiling and then they kind of run into disenchantment. And then they have this bright idea that the real estate agent goes and becomes a loan officer or vice versa. And I think I'm seeing a lot of that in the industry now. And I think this kind of message you're delivering of perseverance, treating it like day one, realizing that, yes, it's going to be hard. And by focusing on the activities that got you where you are, those are the same things that will get you where you want to go. And I love that. That's amazing. So I think some questions. How do you door knock with the way the world is today? People getting hurt on door knocking.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. And I think my, I'm not going to take away the reality of where that question is coming from, but we have people on our team that are door knocking every single week. And so I look at that and say, I promise you, I could look at phone, door knocking, showing up in person. Like it is, no matter what you do, there's going to be one side of it that says, well, gosh, like how do I do that if? And I just try to eliminate those ifs and just say it's part of the job. Here's the reality. I believe our job will require us to have some non-negotiables. And I'm not saying everyone should go out and door knock if they don't want to do it, but you need to figure out what your non-negotiables are. For me to execute well as a real estate agent, if I was going to, part of my strategy would be going out there and doing that. That doesn't mean that every agent on my team or on our platform goes out and door knocks, but if it's a non-negotiable, go and do your non-negotiable. If not, and you're concerned about it, then show me what your non-negotiable activity is that is going to get you in front of a future buyer, future seller, immediate buyer, immediate seller. If you don't want to door knock, then do the extra open house. Or if you don't want to door knock, then make the extra calls. So I think that if we're not careful, we'll always come up with reasons why certain things aren't going to work in my market, or certain reasons why I can't do that because I'm not allowed to, or certain reasons why it's behind a gate, or certain reasons why it's dangerous out where I live. Like then we need to find, if we want to stay in this business, then I would say that any one of those 4 companies that we looked at, they would have found workarounds for that activity to get to their customer. And they did. Like none of those companies were challengeless. They all had challenges. Incumbent, like they had competition, they had customer challenges. So I would just say, don't get hung up on the activity. And if you say, nope, that can't happen because of, great. My response is, then what can? Like what can happen? What are you going to do? So I saw that, like, what do you do if this happens? Or even what do you take with you when you door knock? You know what I take with me? I take with me a few questions. Like, that's it. Like, keep in mind, like, I learned this business and continue to grow it in a profitable way. So I'm very careful to not say, okay, I'm going to door knock, I'm going to leave, you know, something that's expensive with me. So literally I have a simple card that asks them if they want their value of their home, and if they do, they can go online and get the value of their home. Like, for me, I'm just trying to exchange my time for contact information. So like, that is my principle on all lead generation activity. I'm trading time for contact information. If I'm door knocking, I'm there to get their contact information. If I don't, because they're not home, I'm going to leave something that might let me get their contact information. Because at the end of the day, our business is a database business. And so the more contacts I can get, the better I'm going to be long term. So everything is built on that.
Love that. I love that. And that's another smart person once said, what you focus on expands, right? So when you focus on the reasons not to or the problems, you will find more reasons not to and problems. When you focus on solutions and the outcome you're looking for, guess what? You'll find solutions and the outcome you're looking for. All right, got another good one. What's the best strategy to grow your business? This person says, hey, they got 240 closed deals in 5 years. They're finding themselves a little stagnated. How could you help them unlock themselves?
Yeah. So my belief is the sort of the window of real estate, or the cycle of real estate, used to be people would sell every 5 years. We went to 7. We're at about 8 or 9. So if I'm in that 5-year window, most of those 240 may not be repeating a sale. But here's the deal. I would be talking to all 240 because they're going to sell or buy again in the next 2 to 3 years. So your world is made for the next 2 to 3 years. I would also, in my conversations with them, preparing and making sure that I have a relationship with those 240, be asking who they know that might be buying or selling now. They might not be, but they could be. I would also say that if I've sold 240 homes over a 5-year period, if I'm good at what I do, that business should naturally grow, but it's only going to grow if we consistently stayed in touch with those 240. Sometimes we close those 240, we stick them in a database, and there's no consistent reach out, communication, or relationship building or value add to that group, in order to expect that 240 to call me back when the time has come. Because I'll tell you, a lot of those people might be showing up in someone else's platform and being distributed to this group because they weren't being called out of that database. Like, there's only so many buyers and sellers every single year. And so it's the relationship with those people, don't forget, that is going to win it. Your database could be unstealable as long as there's a relationship with 240. So that's a good start. But I would also say make non-negotiable what your weekly add to that database is. So for me, like, I didn't feel like I did my job if I didn't add 2 people to that database every day. Now, there's lots of ways to do that. Again, I could door knock my way to 2. I could call my way to 2. I can open house my way to 2 people a day, which meant if a working week is 5 days, 10 people got added to that database. So think about that. And it doesn't matter, like, let's not look backwards, but if you've been in the business for, 5 years and there's 240 working days in each year, you're looking at, what is that? 1,200 days that you actually worked. What if your philosophy was add 2 people to the database every single day? You'd have 2,400 people added to the 240 that you were reaching out with. Just today, move forward and say, hey, my job is not done until I add 1. My job is not done until I add 2. That's based on your schedule and what your goals are. But it's the sphere of past client business. Never forget it. But if you're not adding to it every single day, or you're not partnered, like, interestingly enough, when I partner with Ojo, I'm actually being gifted clients, right? There are clients being added to my database as well. So there's different ways to get there. We just have to strategically decide, how am I going to get there?
Yeah, love that. Love that. All right, I like this next one. Chris, how do agents who run a team bring their A game, in quotes, to the agents on their team?
Yeah. Here's how we don't. not knowing what they're looking to achieve or what their goals are. I think too many times we build teams because we have a goal to hit certain units or certain volume or certain profit. And so I look at myself and ask, do I have the right? Have I earned the right to be in business with this agent on this team? I earn the right by knowing what their goal is and having a path to their preferred future, which is their end of year goal. See, if I know what their goal is, then I know I will automatically know how I can bring my A game or what they need. Like I think today, keep in mind of all the things I do, I still, just like Chris, like I still have a real estate team that operates in Portland. By the way, on Friday, each of them texts me what they accomplished out of their non-negotiables. So I have not lost a relationship with those individuals, even to this moment in time, right? 25 years later. And if at any point in time I don't believe I can help them, then I don't earn the right to share a commission with them. That's not fair. That's just weird. So for me, I would just say if I know what their goal is, then I know how to bring my A game. Some of them need some training right now because they're doing the activities and not seeing the results. Some of them, my A game is kicking them in the butt. Like my A game is saying, hey, like I can't motivate you every single day. Once in a while I can, but we need to find your internal motivation because you're just not showing up for yourself based on what you said your non-negotiable is and the text I got on Friday. So again, I'm not going to be able to bring my A game unless I know how I'm needed for each one of those individuals. Or if you're beyond that, then what does my organization need? See, organizationally, I know what place needs every single day, and I know who I need to bring my A game to. In that environment, it's the leadership of that company. So we just need to figure out who we are for the business that we're running and say, like, what do they need? Some of us have no people, right, in terms of staff or agents, and we run a great business. Then I'm going to look at my list of clients and say, hey, who's on my list today that needs my A game? How do I show up for them? Maybe it's just that they're just getting beat up in the market, right? They can't buy and they want to. My A game is saying, hey, I'm still staying on top of it. I know you're looking. I know it's not the right time. I'm here for you. That's me bringing my A game to them. Fair?
I love it. I love it. All right, Kevin Lanier has a good question in the chat, and I'm going to change Kevin's question. So Kevin said, do you get the same results on the days your emotions aren't in it or you aren't feeling it? And I'm going to change this question to say, how do you get the same results on the day that your emotions aren't in it or you're not feeling it?
Yeah, it's so funny someone just asked that question because someone texted me yesterday, right? They didn't show up. And I said, hey, I notice, right? I know if I'm responsible for them, I'll notice if they don't show up. And I say, hey, I missed you this morning, right? On our stand-up. And they said, hey, I'm not feeling it. And it might seem like this is a little bit emotionless, but my text to them, I hope it's not an emotionless answer. My text to them, but it's very real, was feeling is a choice. This morning you made a choice. Like, I think what I've learned is we oftentimes, when we think we don't control something, we like to use the expression, I'm not feeling it, because we don't really know how to answer that. By the way, neither do I. But what I do know is I do control how I feel, right? If there's something external that's causing me to feel that way, I control that. If there's something internal that's causing me to feel that way, I control it. But I think too often in this industry, we tap out when we're not feeling it because we can. Because no one's firing us on Wednesday when we didn't show up on Monday and Tuesday, because we work for ourselves. No one's firing us, right? Not us, not the brokerage, not our, like no one is. And so we allow ourselves, we choose not to feel it. So for me, like that's just a simple, seemingly oversimplified answer. Like how do I show up? I choose to show up. Again, if you have a big enough need, desire, or people that need your A game. Remember, I said that earlier, like part of the reason why I partnered was because I probably needed more necessity in my life. Like, I could float off into the sunset, or I could partner with people that expect me to show up and need my A game. I'll always keep my promises to people. So I keep on going out and making big promises to people that I care about.
Yeah, I love that. And Chris, what I heard there is you empowered yourself. You empowered yourself to believe that the way that you feel is a choice and something that you are at the cause of, not at the effect of. And it's interesting when you speak with enough real estate agents or just humans you find that most people have chosen to believe that they're at the effect of their feelings. And they say things like, well, that's easy for you to say, or maybe that works for you, but that doesn't work for me. And they kind of tend to hang on to their story that keeps them in the place that they are. So if you were talking to somebody that had a powerful belief around their existing story and how that they're at effect of that story, what's like the first thing, or what's your thought on how they could become at cause of their future story?
Yeah. I think that oftentimes happens when we spend more time with ourselves than we spend with other people and see their story. Like I think that I'm able to avoid that mostly because I spend a lot of time learning from, you know, or being mentored by people that would never know who I am, or you know, I'm telling myself a story, care to know who I am. But that's what books are. These are people that have tremendous stories that have spent 5, 10, 15, sometimes 30 years taking their story and telling us what they learned or what they went through. So I think it's nonstop being focused on what do I learn from other people that are well out ahead of me in different ways, well out ahead of me from health perspective, well out ahead of me from business and wealth building perspective, well out ahead of me in maybe emotional intelligence perspective, well out ahead of me leading lots of other people. Like I will actively look. I mean, that's why I even had a conversation today about day one. It was me trying to understand, like, who is Jeff Bezos? Like, what is his story? Like I have one that I've recently put together for our organization about Steve Jobs, like all these CEOs that I think, they have an interesting story. Like, let me hear their story, learn their story, tell their story, because it eliminates me from being stuck on mine. Fair?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, it's 2:53. I have 5 minutes worth of Ojo updates for our partners that are on this call. And I'm going to give away some Ojo swag. Give us a parting thought. Like, where would you, Jenna spotlighted me. Can you put Chris back, please? Perfect. Give us a parting thought. Like, there have been so many knowledge nuggets here. Like, how does somebody walk away from today and just put into action what you've learned or what you've taught?
Yeah. I'll share one thing that is actually a more recent share with me. And I learned it at the Built How conference that we put on, but also I was an attendee. Like, I'm a learner. And someone said, and it was a Keith Cunningham quote, but someone said, the quality of your life is a direct result of what you decide to make non-negotiable. And I think you could unplug life and stick in business. So today's a business conversation, right? You can create a life conversation out of it as well. Show up as day one in your life. Like, do your kids feel like you're on day, 700 of their life, or day one of their life? Does your spouse or partner feel like you're on day 4,000 of this relationship, or day one of the relationship? But the quality of my business is a direct result of what I decide to make non-negotiable. Not when someone else decides for me, not what a team or a business or a partner decides for me. It's like, I have to get very, very clear about what is my non-negotiable in what are the key pillars of my life, right? For me, that's what is non-negotiable in my business, right? My career, what is non-negotiable in my personal growth, what is non-negotiable in my wealth building, what is non-negotiable in my relationships, what is non-negotiable in my health, and what is non-negotiable in my spirituality. Those are my 6 pillars. But I took a step back and said, wow, if I can answer that question, right? The quality of my fill in the blank with any one of those 6, the quality of my relationships, business, wealth, health, spirituality, right, is a direct result of what I decide to make non-negotiable. I promise almost every issue, challenge, or problem we might have in any one of those areas of our life will be solved. And it's not I tend to simplify things down because I'm a pretty simple human being, but that simplified it to a completely new level for me. And that is where that is my parting, right, thought. Like, figure out what's non-negotiable in your business right now and just execute on the non-negotiables.
That's tremendous. I love that. And I will make sure that we capture your 6 pillars, because I want to use those. Those are tremendous. So, Mr. Suarez, thank you so much for taking your time with us today. Gang, for the 190 of you that are still here, do me a favor, go into the reactions and give Chris a thumbs up or a love or a crying face, or just like share some gratitude. There it is. It's all coming in. Chris, like you literally have impacted hundreds of people today. This is going to get sent out to thousands more. And I can't say enough good things about what you've shared. So thank you very much. Agents that are still here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said my pleasure. Thank you. Have an awesome day.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. For those of you that are still here, if you are here and you are interested in getting some Ojo merch, just go in the chat and type, I'm still here. Jenna is going to paste in there like the terms and conditions from our attorneys that we have to put in there every time we give something away. There they are. I just saw them scroll by. I'm going to share a couple quick updates with you about stuff at Ojo. There is no test, but it would benefit you to pay attention. So number one, as a reminder, we meet consumers on our website, movoto.com. We do some evaluation, we do some phone calling, and then we make introductions. We have recently instituted a new question for the consumers that we meet, and we ask them, are you looking to buy or rent a piece of property? If they say they're looking to rent, they get off-ramped, they don't get referred to you. So what that means is if you are getting renter leads, you typically should not be getting them anymore. Now, I realize half of you are going to say, oh, no, wait, stop doing that. Like, I love working with renters. I love to talk to them and I want to nurture them. And those are future business. I want to put them in my database. Chris just told me to put them in my database. And then the other half of you are like, this is the best day ever. No more renters. I just want people that are going to buy houses. Thank you very much. You all are winning at the moment. It may go back in the future. That is a change we've made, just letting you know. Number two, this is coming soon. Our product and engineering teams have been super hard at work here at Ojo, totally rethinking the agent experience on Movoto. And I got to tell you all, this is pretty cool. Now, this today, when we introduce you to a consumer, they see this thing on the left, and that is your profile card. In the new version, they're going to see a bigger photo of you, your bio, and all the stuff that you have in that agent bio in your referrals dashboard in your Ojo agent tools. And also now in one tap, that consumer is going to be able to call or text you right from our digital app, our website, et cetera. And not just that, after we make those introductions, we always ask the consumer, you know, are you going to keep working with, say, thumbs up? If they say thanks, awesome. If they say down, we call up, out what's going on, and then we let you know. Every time, once we've connected you, every time they go back to the website and they keep shopping for properties, we are going to keep your face front and center. All those contact forms will still go back to you. You want to make sure that you have that email address saved. It's something like consumer requests at agentemails.movoto.com. Jenna will post it in the chat so you have it. But hey, we're putting you, your face and your name, your brand right back in front of that consumer. And we're doing it all throughout the product. So in our homeowner tool, if you've been connected with a consumer, you'll be in there. If they're thinking about selling their home, if they're trying to schedule a tour or schedule a showing, your face and name is going to be everywhere. It's a huge enhancement that our team has made. We're hoping that it's going to build stickier, more meaningful relationships. And then we will have even some new calls to actions within our emails and other places, just to remind them who we introduced them to and to keep your name and your face top of mind. So it's really exciting stuff. Look for it to all go live in the first half of October, and you're going to see more information on this come out. And then I have one last thing, and then I'm going to turn it back to Chris. On Monday, October 2nd, we have Mr. Barry Habib, the mortgage market guru. He's on CNBC, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, all of them, Bloomberg, as like the mortgage market guru. If you want to know what's happening in interest rates the rest of this year and into next, what's the market going to do? Be on this webinar. There's no cost. Share it with your agent friends, share it with your lender friends, share it with as many people as you want. We've opened it up to the world for Barry. So we look forward to seeing you. Thank you all for your time. And by the way, Chris has a comment for you all. I think you're muted.
Hello, everyone. Hope you got a lot of value out of that. The changes that Jeremiah shared with you, what we're doing, means one thing more than anything else. And that means that your follow-up becomes even more important, because although we can keep flashing your name in front of them in your picture, it's you having the conversations, you doing the follow-up, which is going to make all the difference. This will just help when you do that. Have a great rest of the day. Hope you have a productive week, and we will see you next time.